If you're watching this right now, stop scrolling. Because what I'm about to tell you isn't just another sad story. It's the day I walked into my daughter's house and found her kneeling on the floor shaking while the man she married called my home his property. And that was the moment, the exact breath, when something inside me broke, and something far stronger took its place. If you've ever lost everything you built, if you've ever watched someone you love disappear behind another person's smile, you'll understand what I did next. My name is Michael Harris. I'm 60 years old, and this is the story of how I taught a man like Ethan Ward what happens when you mistake a father's love for weakness. If you're hearing this, hit like, hit subscribe, and tell me in the comments, have you ever seen someone take advantage of kindness and thought one day they'll regret it? Because today is that day. Ethan's father had his boots on my dining table, and my daughter was crying on the porch like a stray. That's what I saw first. Mud streaked across the oak I'd planed myself, beer sweating into rings on a coasterless surface, a stranger's loud laugh ricocheting off the ceiling I'd sanded till midnight. And Lily, my Lily, sitting on the top step of the front porch with her knees pulled to her chest, the left sleeve of her cardigan hanging by a thread, mascara salted into tracks on her cheeks. That was the second my heart learned how to break twice at once. "Dad, don't," she whispered when she saw me, as if my very footsteps were gasoline. Behind her shoulder someone barked, "Who's that?" Then more laughter, the careless kind that only the comfortable have. It was a Friday in late October, wind off the lake, knifing through the cedars that gave Cedar Lane its name. The house, my house, sat where the road bent toward water and Skilboy. I'd built the porch wide so summers could spill onto it. Now Lily sat there, small as a sparrow, and inside, the voices kept getting bigger. I stepped past her anyway. I'd promised myself I wouldn't interfere, that I'd let them figure out their marriage the way my late wife Anne would have told me to. But there are times when a man understands the difference between patience and cowardice. The front door was open. My key still fit, but the lock was taped back with blue painter's tape, like a mouth pried open. Ethan's mother, Pearl's perfume smile, like a knife, looked me up and down. "Oh," she said. "The father." "Michael," I corrected, because names matter. She didn't blink. "House looks lived in," Ethan's father said, boots on my table, flipping a steak knife in his hand like he was auditioning for an old Western. He had that brand of belly that announces a man is proud of his appetites. "Get your boots off my table," I said. My voice was calm. I've found calm is the scariest thing I own. "Your table." The old man grinned. "Son, this is family property now." Ethan emerged from the kitchen with my favorite coffee mug, blue speckled enamel I'd taken on camping trips with Anne, clipped in his fingers like a trophy. He was handsome in the way that makes neighbors trust too quickly. Shirt open at the throat, sleeves rolled high, as if work had ever climbed that far up his arms. He kissed the air in my direction. Michael," I said again. "Relax," he told me, and tipped the mug to his lips. "We're just getting settled." Settled where, I asked, though the smell of their cologne and stale cigarettes already had the answer. "In our home," his mother said. Lily insisted. I looked back out to the porch. Lily was staring at the lake like it might hand her a life raft if she didn't blink. That girl was born gentle. When she was 5, we found a robin with a broken wing under the maple in our backyard. She sat next to it in the grass for a whole afternoon, so it wouldn't be afraid to die alone. That's who she's always been. Heart first, logic later, if ever. "Lily," I called. The wind carried her name in and shook the curtains. She didn't answer. Ethan did. "She's tired," he said. "Moving's a lot." I stepped to the table, plucked the old man's boots off the wood, and saw them on the floor. He made a show of huffing. I ran my thumb along the gouge a boot heel had left in the oak. It was a small wound. Then I looked around at the larger ones, the box cutter scratched down the newel post, the bruised paint along the hallway from a couch rammed into a corner. In the living room, the framed photo of Anne was face down on the mantel. I flipped it upright. Anne stared back in her Sunday blue dress, the one we bought at the outlet mall on the coast, and laughed about, because it made her look like a proper lady when she'd always preferred jeans. "Put that away," Ethan's mother said, wrinkling her nose. "It's morbid." "It's my wife," I said. She waved a hand like shooing a fly. My hands curled and uncurled on their own, a carpenter's knuckles popping like old joists. "Okay," Ethan said teacherly. "Let's do this like adults." Lily and I talked. She feels safer with us here for a bit. Family is family. Yeah. We'll help her settle into the place you so generously gifted. So generous. By the way, Mike. Really? Wow. He smiled big. The kind of smile for closing deals. 7 months earlier, when I signed papers transferring the deed to Lily, for $1 and love and affection, I imagined holiday dinners, a nursery, maybe lily of the valley, along the fence line. I didn't picture a wolf pack. I didn't picture blue tape on the lock, or my wife's photo face down in dust. "Where's Lily's room?" I asked. "Master," the old man said. "Brenda and I took that. My back can't handle stairs. We put Lily upstairs. Young people like a climb. Ethan's in the downstairs guest for now. Easier for business calls." "My house has 3 bedrooms," I said. "Again with Ethan said. "You really gotta work on that. It makes this weird." I took a breath. "Anne used to say count to 5 before you break anything, Mike." I counted to 7. On 8, I walked to the porch. Lily didn't look up until I knelt. "You okay?" I asked. She swallowed. Up close, her face looked smaller in ways that had nothing to do with vision. There was a tiny cut along her hairline. "I tripped," she said too fast. "Did he?" "I didn't say Ethan's name. I didn't need to." Her silence put his fingerprints in the space between us. "I'm fine," she said. "Please don't make it worse." "These people are in your house," I said. "They've put their boots on our table, Lil." Her mouth twitched at a reflex memory of the years we'd spent making a life in sawdust and grocery lists. "He said it's ours," she whispered. "Ours as in, theirs too." Behind me, Ethan leaned on the doorframe, mug in hand, king in his gait. "Listen, Mike. When you handed Lily the keys, you handed me a home. That's marriage. What's hers is mine. It's not complicated. Marriage is not theft," I said. "Big word," he said lightly, but the corner of his mouth twitched. "Look, I know this is hard for you. Control's a thing with older guys. I built this place with my hands," I said softly. It wasn't an argument. It was a fact I set between us, like a level on a plank. "Cute story," Brenda said behind him. "But we need Lily to finish the laundry and get dinner going. We've had a long day." "Lily doesn't do your laundry," I said without turning. "Lily doesn't cook for you, Michael." Lily whispered, panic opening in her eyes like a storm. "Please." There it was, the old ache of being her father, and the newer shame of having to learn where my protection ended and her life began. Every cell in me wanted to lift her, carry her to the truck, and drive until the lake was a memory. But I could see the trap. If I turned this into a scene, he'd make me the bully. She'd flinch toward him, and I'd lose her a little more. So I stood. "Ethan," I said, "we need to talk." "We're talking," he said, not moving. "Not with your parents." He rolled his eyes, but he walked with me into the kitchen. The mug clinked onto the counter. He did that thing young men do, arm wide, blocking the doorway, while smiling like it's hospitality. "You forged something," I said. I'd planned to wait. To check the deed records at the county office. To call my friend Richard, who used to practice law, before his hands shook. But some truths don't like slow paths. You put your name where it doesn't belong. He didn't blink. Mike, you really don't want to use words you can't spell. The deed's in her name, I said. Only hers. That was the point. The mortgage, he said gently as if speaking to a patient. Refinance, equity line, adult stuff. We'll get you a pamphlet. The room narrowed. The kitchen smelled like bacon fat and some cologne built for 20-year-olds with gym memberships. I could hear the lake slapping the rocks through the open window. I thought of Anne, her way of pressing a hand to my forearm when I was about to do something regrettable. I put my hands flat on the counter. Move your parents out tonight, I said. I won't say it again. He laughed, then genuine and delighted. Ah, Mike. I know you think you're the sheriff in whatever movie is playing in your head, but you're a guy with a toolbox and a nostalgia problem. I stepped forward just enough that he had to tip his chin. He smelled like mint gum over something sour. You can insult me all day. I'm not the one you're trying to break. His eyes flicked just a hair toward the porch. Predators always check the prey when you name the hunt. He leaned back. You should get going, he said soberly. Lily's exhausted. And we have an early morning. My dad has a bad back, like I said. I heard, I said. Funny how his back works fine when he's climbing onto tables. That's enough, Ethan hissed, the smile cracking. There it was. The first truth of him. Small, hard, mean. I looked past him through the archway to where the old man was scrolling his phone with his thumbs, and the mother was rearranging the throw pillows I'd bought at Target the day I gave Lily the keys. I saw the future in a flash. Thanksgiving without Lily, the house filling with voices that didn't know its bones, laughter that didn't belong to its rooms. I felt something inside me settle and stand up straight. I turned to the porch again to Lily. You call me if he asks you to sign anything, I said. If anyone hands you a pen, you call me first. She nodded like a child trying to be brave in a doctor's office. I don't want trouble, she whispered. You've already got it, I said, but I made my voice gentle. We're going to fix it. Ethan's mother tapped her watch. Dinner, eat in the driveway, I said pleasantly, and walked out before my mouth could write checks. My fists wanted to cash. On the porch I bent low and kissed Lily's hair. It smelled like lake wind and shampoo from the cheap grocery store. I love you, I said. I built this place so you'd never feel small again. For a second, a bright, sharp second, she let her head fall onto my shoulder, the way she did the night before her high school graduation, when her nerves ate her dinner. Then she pulled back, because she is my daughter, and she carries both my stubbornness and my pride. Please go, Dad. She whispered a line drawn in hope and fear. I nodded. I've learned the hardest part of love is knowing when not to fight in front of the person you're fighting for. I walked down the steps, gravel groaning under my boots. The lake flashed silver. The cedars leaned. I didn't look back until I reached the truck. When I did, Ethan had moved onto the porch, one arm against the post, smiling like a man who'd just won a bet. He raised the mug, my mug, in a toast. Welcome to the family, Mike. I slid behind the wheel and sat very still, my hands on the leather I'd rubbed with oil every winter since Anne died. The house on Cedar Lane looked different from the curb, tired like a boxer between rounds. I turned the key. The engine caught. And as I pulled away, I understood it as cleanly as if someone had said it in my ear. That was the day the house I built with my hands became a cage for my daughter. I didn't sleep that night. The rain came down in needles against the tin roof, and every drop sounded like it was spelling out the same word: failure. I sat in my old recliner, staring at the empty side of the couch where Anne used to fold laundry while I told her about whatever project I was building in the workshop. She'd nod, patient, half smiling, like she was watching a boy still trying to fix the world with a hammer. Now all I could think about was Lily sitting on that porch with a cut on her face and fear where her eyes used to live. When she was little, Lily was all light. She used to bring home stray animals, cats, birds, one time a raccoon that somehow followed her from school. She'd cry if she saw something suffer. She got that from you, Anne used to tease. Maybe she did. Or maybe I just mistook kindness for strength and never taught her the difference. The morning after I drove to town for coffee and a reason to calm down, I stopped by Benny's Hardware, a small shop that still smells like sawdust and pipe smoke. Benny's been there since before my first mortgage. He looked up when I walked in and whistled low. "Mike Harris," he said. "Heard you gave your girl the house. Generous man. Real generous." I grunted. "You could say that. Ethan's a lucky son of a gun. Guy's got charm. Always talking big about new investments. Says he might flip the property one day." My head snapped up. "Flip it?" "His words, not mine," Benny said, holding up his hands. Said something about potential equity, whatever that means. You know kids and their big words. I left without paying for the coffee. By noon, I was parked outside Lily's work-in office for some home insurance company downtown. I waited. The parking lot was full of wet asphalt and reflection, the kind that makes the world look upside down. She came out at 5. Shoulders rounded, steps, small eyes down. Not the way she used to walk when she was a girl, running toward me, after school, hair flying, yelling, "Daddy!" When she saw me, her face tightened, like she'd been caught doing something wrong. "Dad, you shouldn't be here." "I wanted to talk," I said. "Ethan doesn't like surprises. I'm not here for him." She sighed. "Then please make it quick." We sat in my truck, heat humming. I watched her hands tremble in her lap, the ring on her finger, glinting dull silver. "Did he ask you to sign anything?" I asked. She froze. "Why would you think that?" "Because I built that house for you, not for him. And I can smell a scam, the way a dog smells rain." Her lip quivered, but her voice stayed even. "He's just trying to help. We're refinancing, that's all. Lower interest rate. You don't understand how expensive things are now. I understand what control looks like." She shook her head hard, like trying to shake off guilt. "Dad, stop. You're being paranoid. Ethan's trying his best. Lily, when a man starts saying my for things that are yours, that's not love. That's theft with good manners." Her eyes flashed for a moment, hurt anger, maybe shame. "You hate him because he's not Mom." That hit harder than it should have. She reached for the door handle. "I have to go." "Lily, wait. Just tell me one thing. Are you happy?" She froze halfway out. The wind pushed a strand of hair across her face. She didn't answer. She didn't have to. Then she said the words that would haunt me for weeks. "I don't want to cause trouble, Dad." And she was gone. That night I sat at the kitchen table with the deed folder open. Every page was neat. Every signature precise, mine, hers, the notary's stamp. Ethan's name wasn't there. Not yet. But something about Lily's tone made me feel the same way I did when Anne first got sick, like the danger was already in the room, just invisible. So I called an old friend. Richard Lawson had been my fishing buddy for 30 years and a lawyer for 40 before he retired. I still owed him a broken reel and a bottle of bourbon. He answered on the third ring. "Mike Harris." "Haven't heard that grumpy tone in a while." "What's on fire, Ethan?" I said. "And maybe my daughter's life." 10 minutes later, I was sitting at Richard's kitchen table, surrounded by old case folders and coffee that could strip paint. I told him everything. The house, the visit, the boots on my table, Lily's silence. Richard listened like he was building a case already in his head. When I was done, he rubbed his temples. "Ethan's smart," he said finally. "Too smart for honest work." You know he was sued 3 years ago. Number real estate scam. Got his ex-wife to co-sign a loan on a house. Defaulted, left her holding the bag. Settled out of court. I stared at him. Lily doesn't know, does she? I doubt it. Guys like him rewrite their history every relationship. So what do I do? First, breathe, he said. Second, pull out your deed documents. Tell me exactly how the transfer was written. I handed him the file. He flipped through it with slow, deliberate care. Halfway through, he stopped and tapped a page. Well, I'll be damned. What clause 7? You remember adding this? I squinted. Any sale or alteration of property title within the first 5 years requires written consent of the original grantor. I thought it was just a formality, I said. Richard smiled for the first time. It's a lifeline. Ethan can't legally sell or refinance without your signature. That clause just turned your generosity into a trap. Relief washed over me like whiskey. So he can't touch it, not without committing fraud. But Mike, Richard's eyes hardened. Guys like that don't stop because the law says so. He'll push her to sign something anyway. You need proof timing and someone who can stand with her when she kicks. She won't crack. He gave me a look that said, "You're lying to yourself." The next morning, I went back to Cedar Lane, pretending I was there to drop off a box of tools I'd forgotten. The front yard was littered with beer cans. A car I didn't recognize, sleek black, and too new for their budget, was parked crooked in the driveway. I knocked. No answer. Then I heard voice. Ethan's father. "She'll sign it, son. She just needs a little persuasion." Ethan. I told her it's just a formality. She's soft. She'll fold. Brenda. Maybe let her cry a bit. Works faster. I felt my pulse hammer against my throat. Then footsteps approached the door, so I backed away, hiding by the side window. Ethan opened it, phone pressed to his ear, laughing. "Don't worry, babe. By next week, it's all ours." Babe, not Lily. Someone else. I left before I did something that would end with sirens. That night, I called Lily again. No answer. I texted her, "Sweetheart, whatever papers he gives you, don't sign. Please, call me." No reply. I sat there staring at the phone until dawn, every minute feeling heavier than the last. By the time the sun rose, I'd decided I wasn't just going to be a spectator in my daughter's quiet destruction. I didn't know yet how bad things would get, or how far Ethan was willing to go. I only knew this. A man can lose a wife, a home, and half his life savings, but he doesn't lose his right to fight for his blood. And the next time Ethan smiled at me, it wasn't going to be over my easel. It was going to be across a courtroom. But first I had to get my daughter to speak, because the silence of my daughter had become the loudest sound in my life. It's strange, the things that haunt you, not the shouting or the violence those you can brace for. What really stays is the quiet moment when you realize you've built the trap yourself. 3 days passed before Lily called. I was sanding a maple countertop in my shop, pretending sawdust could drown the noise in my head. The phone buzzed across the bench, lighting up with her name. My heart tripped. "Dad?" Her voice was small. I could hear the echo of the house behind her, that hollow sound a room gets when the soul's gone missing. "I'm here," I said. "He says I have to sign refinancing papers today. He says it's to protect us." "Protect you from what?" "From debt. From taxes." "I don't know." Her voice cracked. "I can't think straight when he's watching. Lily, listen to me. Don't sign a damn thing until I get there." "I can't, Dad. He's right here." "Then go to the bathroom. Lock the door. Say you're sick. Just give me 1 hour." But the line went dead. I stood there in my shop phone against my ear, surrounded by the smell of varnish and fear. For 40 years I'd built homes that stood through wind and time. I'd measured twice, cut once, done everything by the book. But this mess I'd built out of love and pride, and there wasn't a manual for fixing it. I called Richard. She's going to sign, I said. Then we need to move fast. Bring me the deed, the contract, everything you have. Now. An hour later, I was at his kitchen table again. He spread the papers like a surgeon prepping for an operation. You remember this part, he asked, tapping the clause we'd found earlier. I do. Well, that clause means Ethan can't touch the property without your written consent for 5 years. You just saved yourself a small miracle, my friend. I don't want to save myself. I want to save my daughter. Richard leaned back, his chair creaking. You will. But you need to be smart about it. This guy's manipulative. He'll push her until she breaks. And when she does, he'll have her signature before you can blink. I rubbed my temples. There's gotta be a way to make this legally untouchable. There is, Richard said. If Ethan forges anything, you can have him for fraud. But we'll need proof. Texts, recordings, anything that shows coercion. I'm not tech-savvy, I said. Then get someone who is. Maybe your wife's old friend Karen. Didn't she work in real estate? Yeah, I said slowly. She handled the insurance on the build. Call her. See if she's heard Ethan's name floating around. That afternoon I drove into town to find Karen. Her office was in a strip mall, next to a dry cleaner and a Mexican bakery. She still had the same wide smile and sharp eyes, the kind of woman who could talk you into buying a house or talk you out of hell, depending on which side you were on. Mike Harris, she said, waving me in. Long time no see. How's Ann? I hesitated. Gone. 2 years now. Her face softened. I'm sorry. Don't be, I said. I just need a favor. She listened as I told her everything, Ethan. The house, the clause, the fear. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms. I've heard that name, she said finally. Ethan Ward, right? He used to hang around the agency. Smarmy guy. Had this habit of cozying up to women who owned property. I warned a few clients about him. My stomach sank. Did he ever? He convinced one woman to refinance her lake cabin. Promised he'd help manage the assets reset. She ended up losing it. I think there was a lawsuit, but she dropped it after he settled. Settled how? Cash. And threats. I stared out the window at the parking lot shimmering in afternoon heat. Can you get me anything? Documents, emails, whatever ties him to that. She nodded. Give me a day. That night, Lily texted me. He says if I don't sign, he'll tell everyone you gave us a house to control us. He says you don't trust him. My thumbs trembled as I typed back. He's twisting it. I trust you. I just don't trust him. Don't sign. Please, baby girl. No reply. I spent the next day pacing between the phone and the window. At dusk, Karen called. I've got something, she said. Old case files. Ethan's signature, his alias. And get this, bank statements, showing he pocketed money from a fake refinancing company. Can we use it? Richard can. It's solid pattern of behavior evidence. Send him over. I'll print everything. By the time I reached her office, it was raining again. She handed me a folder thick with papers. Be careful, Mike, she said. Men like him don't lose gracefully. When I got home, the phone was ringing again. Lily. I picked up on the first ring. Dad. He's furious. He said you're trying to ruin him. He smashed my phone last night. I'm using his mother's now. Listen to me. None of this is your fault. I've got proof he's a fraud. Just hold on. He said he's selling the house, Dad. He said he can forge your name if he has to. I froze. He said that out loud. Yes. Record him next time, anything you can. I'll take care of the rest. But what if he finds out? Then I'll deal with him myself. Dad, Lily, you're my only kid. I already lost your mother. I'm not losing you too. Silence. Then softly, I miss her. I know, sweetheart. Me too. After we hung up, I poured 2 fingers of bourbon and sat at the kitchen table staring at Anne's photograph. The wind rattled the windows, and for the first time, I let the guilt roll over me. I'd built that house with every good intention a man could have, and somehow it had become a weapon in the wrong hands. That's what no one tells you about being a father. You never stop building. Even when your tools are love and hope instead of nails and wood, you're still building, and you can still build it wrong. At midnight, I drove back to Richard's with Karen's folder. He was waiting with the porch light on, robe tied loose, coffee steaming. We went through every paycheck, every receipt, every sawmill. When we finished, he tapped one sheet and said, "This is enough. We can get a court injunction by Friday. Stop any sale cold." Friday. He nodded. "You said he plans to meet the buyer then, right?" "Yeah. Noon. Then we have 48 hours to stop him." I looked at the papers spread across the table, proof of Ethan's lies, a paper trail of greed. It should have made me feel better, but all I felt was hollow. Because even if we won the legal war, I'd still failed the first battle, the one where a father's supposed to keep his daughter safe from men like him. Still, I wasn't done yet. Richard clapped my shoulder. "Mike, you're doing everything right. You gave her a home, not a sentence. We'll fix this." I nodded, but I knew better. This wasn't just about fixing paperwork anymore. This was about saving Lily's life. And for that, I was willing to burn the house I built with my own hands. The morning ski looked wrong, too calm, too blue, for what I knew was coming. Friday. The day Ethan planned to sell the house I'd built board by board. By 8 a.m., Richard had already filed the injunction downtown. "We'll have the judge's signature by noon," he told me over the phone. "Once that hits the system, any transfers frozen." But noon might be too late. I'd seen Ethan's kind. They didn't wait for permission. They acted first and begged forgiveness later. So I got in my truck and headed for Cedar Lane. The house stood quiet but not peaceful. The curtains were drawn, and a strange SUV sat in the driveway. My heart started pounding in that slow old man rhythm that tells you you're too late. I walked up the porch steps. The front door wasn't even closed. It hung open an inch. Voices inside, male, female overlapping, told you, "We can sign it now." "The buyer's already waiting at the bank," Ethan's voice said. Then Lily's, "I don't understand half of this. Just trust me," he snapped. I pushed the door open. It slammed against the wall. The room went still. Lily froze at the table, pen in hand. Ethan turned, face twisting into a grin that didn't reach his eyes. Behind him, his father sat on my couch with a beer can, and his mother was rifling through Lily's mail like it was her own. "Well," Ethan said, "the old man returns. You got a lot of nerve calling me that in my house." He laughed. "Correction, our house. Isn't that right, sweetheart?" Lily's eyes darted to mine, red and wet. "Dad, please, not now. Now's exactly the time." I crossed the room, my boots loud on the floor. Ethan moved to block me, but I didn't stop. "Give me that paper," I said. "Excuse me. Whatever she's signing, hand it over." He held it up, shaking it like a flag. "It's a refinancing form. Nothing criminal." "Then you won't mind if I take a look?" He smirked. "I do mind, actually. You've been sticking your nose into our marriage for too long." "That's not a marriage," I said. "That's a hostage situation." Lily gasped softly, but Ethan's smile cracked. "Watch your mouth, old man. Why, you already broke her silence. You going for her spirit next." He took a step forward, jaw tight. "You think you can walk in here, bark orders, and everyone listens because you've got gray hair and a hammer in your truck?" This is 2025, not Mayberry. Behind him, his father chuckled. He's right, Harris. You gave the house away. Maybe check your paperwork before you play hero. That was it. I grabbed the form from Ethan's hand so fast he didn't have time to react. He lunged for it, but I stepped back, unfolding the page. Fake signature line for me, my name. My initials already forged in sloppy blue ink. You forged my name, I said. My voice didn't rise, it dropped, like steel sliding free from a sheath. Ethan's smirk faltered. It's a mistake. The notary filled that I slammed the paper against his chest. I built this house, you leech. You think you can steal it with a cheap pen and a bad lie? He shoved me. You're done here. Touch me again, I said quietly, and I'll make you wish you'd never learned to write your own name. Lily stepped between us, shaking. Please stop, both of you. Ethan pointed at her. You see what he's doing? He's poisoning you. He's trying to control everything. No, I said, still calm. I'm trying to free her from you. Ethan's father stood up, beer in hand. Time for you to leave, Harris. I turned to him. If you don't sit down, I'll put you through that wall. He blinked, realizing I wasn't bluffing. Then Brenda, his mother, spoke sweet as venom. You always had a hero complex, didn't you? Michael, poor widower, thinks he can fix everything with his hands. Maybe if you'd raised your daughter stronger, she wouldn't need saving. That hit its mark, but I didn't give her the satisfaction of seeing it. Funny, I said, coming from someone who raised a parasite. She hissed something under her breath, but I'd already turned to Lily. Sweetheart, I said softer now. You don't have to live like this. You can come home. Her chin trembled. He'll hate me. He already does, I said. He just hides it behind love. That broke something in her. A sob tore free, raw and small. She looked at Ethan, really looked at him, and I saw it, the recognition of who he truly was. He saw it too. You're not going anywhere, he said, grabbing her wrist. I moved before I thought. My hand clamped on his shoulder, yanking him back. Let go of my daughter. He shoved me again, harder. She's my wife. She's not your property. The room erupted. Brenda screamed. Frank moved like he was 20 years younger, stepping toward me. Lily pulled her arm free and stumbled toward the door. Go, I barked. She hesitated only a second, then ran. Ethan turned on me. You just made the biggest mistake of your life. No, I said, straightening. I'm finally fixing what? He swung first. Years of carpentry don't make you quick, but they teach you where to plant your feet. His punch caught my shoulder, not my jaw. I grabbed his wrist, twisted, and drove him backward into the dining table. The beer can fell, spilling foam across my blueprints, still framed on the wall. Frank shouted, trying to pull me off. You're assaulting my son. I looked him dead in the eye. Then call the cops. Please. He froze. Ethan wheezed on the floor, clutching his arm. You'll regret this, you old bastard. I'll ruin you. Get in line, I said. Outside, a car engine started. Lily's. Relief hit me like a wave. I stepped back, breathing hard. Here's how this works, I said. You and your parents are trespassing. The next time I come here, I won't knock. I'll come with the sheriff. Ethan sneered but didn't answer. I turned, walked out the front door, and for the first time in weeks, the air felt clean. Lily's car was gone down the road. I didn't know where she'd gone, but she was away from him, and that was enough. That night, Richard called. We got the injunction, he said. Judge signed it an hour ago. No sale, no refinance, nothing. You did it. Not yet, I said. What happened? I told him everything, the forged signature, the fight, Lily running. He swore softly. Mike, you need to file a report. That forgery's a felony. I know. Tomorrow. He hesitated. Be careful. Men like him, when they realize they've lost money and control, they get dangerous. I'm counting on it, I said. Let him come for me. I'm done playing defense. Before bed, I found Anne's photo on the nightstand. I looked at her smile, that small tilt of her head she always had when she was about to say something wiser than me. I built her a house, Annie, I whispered, and I almost built her a prison instead. The wind howled outside, rattling the cedar boards. Somewhere out there, Ethan was probably plotting his next move. But he didn't know what I had: proof, allies, and a fury that comes only once in a man's lifetime. Tomorrow, I'd bring the law down on him. But tonight, I let myself imagine the moment he'd realize the house he tried to steal had become his cage instead. And that thought, God forgive me, felt almost sweet. We didn't wait for the sky to change. We moved like men who smelled the smoke before the house caught fire. Richard and I split work. He retired from courtroom theatrics, but his mind still loved the smell of paper, the way mine loved fresh-cut cedar. He told me what to do, and I did it, because when a lawyer of his caliber gives you marching orders, you obey. Karen was the wild card, sharp, networked, and angry in the way a woman who's lost clients to a slick con man becomes. She produced files that read like a confession bank records, that traced money from a fake refinancing company to an account Ethan controlled, emails where he coached a notary on wording, and a half-burned invoice for a mover that never existed. Pattern, motive, opportunity. First thing that morning, I signed Richard's emergency affidavit. Temporary injunction, he called it. We'll freeze any transfer, sale, or mortgage. He explained the legal difference like he was telling me how to plain a board injunction stops action. A restraining order keeps a person away. We needed both. The clock was noon on Friday, and Ethan had the buyer scheduled then. He likes speed. He likes certainty. He likes a closing. While Richard filed, I did the human work. I called the title companies, every main title company within the county, and the 2 regional ones in the next county where Ethan might try to run the paperwork. I spoke slowly, clearly, and without theatrics, which is how you get a clerk to listen to a 60-year-old man who sounds like he's been up all night. I told them, you've been served. There's an injunction lodged in county court. If any transaction for 128 Cedar Lane comes across your desk, do not touch it. Call Richard Lawson at this number. They asked for proof. I uploaded certified copies while my hands shook. Karen sent her printed packet to 3 address lines: the title companies, the main local notary bureau, and the county recorder's office. She also emailed a red-lined summary to Richard's clerk and attached a PDF of the clause I'd included, Clause 7, where it explicitly required my written consent for 5 years after the transfer. I'd added it, thinking I was being sentimental. I'd been practical, not prescient. The clause wrote on, the deed like a chain. At noon, the county clerk called me. Judge Martinez signed it, she said, like she was reading off the weather. My knees went soft for a second. I didn't have time to lose. Richard told me to breathe into a paper bag like they do on television. I laughed and told him to go file a motion for a temporary restraining order too, while I called Lily. She answered on the second ring. Her voice was thin. Dad, they're taking me to the title company, she whispered. He says it's just a signature. He says, tell him you're sick, I said. Tell him you have a migraine. Sit in the bathroom. Call 911 if you need to. Do not sign anything. Do you understand me? Yes, she said the word like an exhale. The line went quiet. I could hear a faraway voice in the background. Ethan's ordering someone to move things faster. The kind of clipped sentences men use when they believe their money can fix everything. Lily texted back once. They took my phone. This one's Mom's. I told her to call me on the landline at my workshop. Old tech, easy to hide. Karen had arranged for a private security company on contingency. She didn't want to call the sheriff, until we had iron in hand. She'd worked with them before, quiet types who prefer cameras and an orderly presence over flashing lights. They could position a car near the title company, give us real-time video, and make a witness. Richard insisted on witnesses. Courts love witnesses, he said. And judges hate surprises. Then the threats started. It was a text from an unknown number. Short, professional, almost surgical in its cruelties. You should have stayed out of this, old man. Next time you come sniffing around, you'll get more than words. Walk away, or I'll make sure you regret the day you were ever born with hands that work. I read it twice. My stomach sank, then my chest tightened. Threats used to mean a bully's breath in your ear. This was a scalpel. Then my phone buzzed again. Another number, this time a voicemail from Ethan. I played it in my truck, parked under the cedar trees, where they made shadows like fingers. He didn't apologize. He didn't charm. His voice was flat. You interfered. You gave us the house, and now you're trying to take me out of my own life. I don't care if you're 60. I don't care if you once taught kids how to build a deck. Some men keep their hands to themselves, Michael. Some don't. He didn't end with a threat. He ended with certainty. Certainty that he could hurt us. Certainty that he had options. I called Richard. He texted me, I said. He's threatening, and they are taking her to the title company. We have the injunction, Richard reminded me. The title companies have been notified. He has a new phone number. He said he'll make me regret being born with working hands. Document it, Richard said. Screenshot the text. Upload it. We'll file it as evidence of intimidation. That strengthens the restraining order. And Mike, don't go alone. But I'd already started the truck. There are decisions that aren't clever, just necessary. The kind you make because your daughter might sign a paper that binds her for life. Because a forged signature leaves prints that a court can scrub clean, but not forget. I told Karen to ping the security team. I asked her to stream their camera to my phone if anything happened. She did it before I told her twice. That woman runs on a different kind of energy, the kind that bends the world to what's right. On the road to Cedar Lane, I rehearsed nothing and everything. My hands were steady on the wheel. The old truck still smelled like geodust and old sweat. The title company was 20 minutes from the house. The rain that afternoon began as a rumor and became a steady voice in the gutters. Cedar Lane blurred by in strips of green and gray. At a red light, Richard called. Judge Martinez signed a temporary restraining order too, he said. It says any attempt to coerce, threaten, or physically intimidate the owner or the original grantor will be grounds for immediate contempt. We've got teeth now, Mike. Do you think it will stop him? I asked. It will make sure the next time he moves in front of a judge and not a notary, he said. But be careful. Paper is law, but men still throw punches. His words sat with me heavy and true. I drove faster. My phone pinged again, another message. This time it wasn't from Ethan. It was from a number I didn't recognize with a single line. You're making powerful enemies. Last warning. Leave my family alone. I stopped the truck at the side of the road and looked at my hands. They were old-veined, spotted by years in the sun and oil. They were also steady because they'd learned to hold things together. I took a breath and hit reply. This is not about revenge. It's about my daughter. Stop with the threats. Leave Lily alone. No reply. Of course there wasn't. Men who start fires don't always like looking into the smoke. I called Lily. She answered. Dad, she said, voice trembling. Are you there? I'm here, I said. I don't know if I can do this. You can. I said, you're already doing it. I'm on my way to the title company. If they try anything, tell them you have counsel and that this transaction is frozen. Ask to speak to the manager. Request a photocopy of everything. Tell them Ma to touch it. She breathed. Okay. Call 911 if you feel unsafe. Do it even if you don't know what to say. Just call. I will, she said. I love you. I love you too. I hung up and drove the last few miles like a man walking to a pond he'd seen dry for too long. I thought about the way the house had looked when we'd built it, fresh paint, a porch that proved a thing worth having. I thought about the clause in the deed that now shone like a beacon, no sale or transfer, without original grantor consent for 5 years. I thought about how a small piece of foresight can become a lifeline. There are battles you prepare for, and battles you don't. We had prepared, but the enemy had sharpened a blade in the dark. I slid the truck into the title company parking lot and killed the engine. The rain was steady now, steady enough to blur the edges of everything like watercolor, bleeding the hard lines. Inside there would be people in suits, a clerk behind a glass, a man with too much charm trying to convince a woman to sign a life away. I pushed open the door. The lobby smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and expensive coffee. A small bell chimed. The receptionist looked up at me and smiled a smile that lived only on customer service scripts. Mr. Harris, can I help you? Yes, I said. And when I told her my name and the case number, I saw the way her brow tightened. The world we live in has rules, and sometimes those rules step into the room like a sheriff in plain clothes. They've been served, she said. We won't process anything. For a blessed second, relief rushed through me, like warm coffee. Then my phone buzzed again. Another unknown number, another terse sentence. You should have listened. This is only the beginning. The threat felt older now, not a flash in a dark room, but the slow grinding of a machine. I looked at the receptionist and smiled. Can I wait here? I asked. Maybe talk to whoever's handling this. She nodded, and as I sat down I felt the quiet before a storm, thin, taut, and electric. I had the law on our side. I had Corinne and Richard, and a folder of proof that would make a good man sweat. What I didn't have was certainty about what a desperate man will do when his empire of lies crumbles. I closed my eyes for a second, feeling 70 years of paternal instinct coil behind them like a spring. Then I opened them and picked up the phone. I dialed Karen. Get ready, I said. He just sent another message. He's not done. The storm broke at exactly 12:37 p.m. I was still sitting in that title company lobby, rain dripping from my jacket onto the cheap gray carpet, when I saw him, Ethan, stride through the glass doors like he owned the weather. Lily trailed behind, pale and trembling, a small purse clutched to her chest, as if it were a shield. He didn't notice me at first. He was too busy smiling that salesman's smile, the kind that had probably closed every deal of his life. He walked straight to the counter, slapped a manila folder onto the desk and said, "We're here to finalize the transfer for Cedar Lane." The receptionist froze. She looked from him to me. I nodded once. Then she said the words that would end it all. "I'm sorry, Mr. Ward. We can't process this property. There's a court order." For a second, the world held its breath. Ethan blinked, confused. "What court order?" "The injunction," she said, pulling up the file. "Filed by Michael Harris at 11:47 this morning. Effective immediately." The silence that followed was so sharp, it could have cut glass. Then his smile vanished. He turned slowly until his eyes landed on me. The recognition hit, and the mask came off. "You," he said, his voice low and deadly. "Me," I said. Lily gasped when she saw me, but before she could speak, Ethan lunged, his hand fisted the front of my jacket. "You think you can ruin my life, old man?" I didn't flinch. "You ruined your own." Security was already moving, 2 guards crossing the lobby fast. Ethan shoved me back hard, but I'd braced for it. I didn't fall. I just looked at him, calm as a man who's already won. You forged my name, I said. You tried to steal a house. You threatened my daughter. It's over, Ethan. He laughed, harsh, desperate. You don't understand how this works. I'm her husband. What's hers is mine. Not anymore. Richard's voice came from behind me. He'd just walked in, rain dripping from his umbrella, a folder under one arm, and a sheriff's deputy behind him. Mr. Ward, Richard said evenly. I'm attorney Richard Lawson, representing both Michael and Lily Harris. I have here a restraining order and a criminal complaint for attempted coercion, forgery, and property fraud. Ethan's jaw dropped. You're bluffing. The deputy stepped forward and held up the document. You'll have a chance to test that theory in front of a judge. Ethan spun toward Lily. You did this, he hissed. She flinched but didn't look away. No, she said softly. You did. For a moment, I thought he might hit her. His hand twitched. But when the deputy reached for his holster, Ethan froze. I didn't mean to. He started, but the words fell apart. Lily straightened. Her voice was trembling, but it carried across the lobby like a bell. You always mean to, Ethan. That's the difference. You just don't like the consequences. The deputy cuffed him, then quick, efficient, professional. Ethan tried to twist away, but it was no use. The clink of metal on wrists was the most satisfying sound I'd ever heard. As they led him out, he turned one last time toward me. You think you've won? You think this is justice? You'll see, old man. You'll see what happens when the doors shut behind him, cutting him off mid-threat. Just like that, the storm was over. Lily stood in the middle of the lobby, shaking. I went to her slowly, not wanting to crowd her. It's okay, I said quietly. He can't touch you now. She looked up at me with wet eyes. I thought I'd never get away, Dad. I thought. She stopped. He told me nobody would believe me. I believe you, I said. Always have. She broke, then collapsing into my arms, and for the first time in months, I felt her breathe without fear. Outside, the rain began to ease. By the end of the day, Ethan was booked on charges of forgery, coercion, and domestic battery. His parents lawyered up immediately, claiming ignorance. Richard and I knew better. We had the text messages, the fake notary records, and Karen's file linking Ethan's bogus company to their accounts. It wasn't just a house he'd tried to steal. It was a pattern, a business built on manipulation and fear. The next 48 hours were a blur of paperwork and phone calls. Lily gave her statement to the police. I sat beside her through every question, every tear. When it was done, she looked at me and said, I didn't think I was strong enough for this. You were, I said. You just forgot. Richard smiled across the table. Your father's right. You don't owe anyone silence anymore, Lily. Least of all a man like him. 2 weeks later, the county court officially transferred the restraining order into a long-term protective order. Ethan's bail was denied after the prosecutor revealed the forged signatures and the threats. His parents moved out of the condo they'd been squatting in after a court-martial escorted them out. When Lily and I walked back into that house for the first time, it didn't feel like home. The walls were scuffed, the furniture gone, the air thick with stale smoke and bad memories. But it was ours again. Lily stood in the doorway, eyes glistening. Do we fix it? She asked. I looked around, the gouged floorboards, the cracked mirror, the windows still facing the sea. No, I said after a moment. We build new. She smiled, a small, tired smile that still reached her eyes. You always did, like starting from scratch. Runs in the family, I said. A month later, she filed for divorce. By then, Richard had built an airtight case. Karen's documents connected Ethan's fake business to 2 other victims' women, who'd lost property the same way. They came forward one after another, telling their stories in calm, steady voices that made the courtroom tremble. When the verdict came, Ethan didn't look up. Guilty on all counts. He was sentenced to 4 years with restitution to each victim. Lily didn't cry. She didn't smile either. She just let out a breath that had been trapped for years. "It's over," she said. I squeezed her hand. "No," I said gently. "It's beginning." That summer, we sold the Cedar Lane house. The money went into her new business, a small interior design studio downtown. She called it Second Light. When I asked her why, she said, "Because that's what you gave me, Dad." A second light when the first one went out. Sometimes I drive by her shop just to see the windows glowing in the evening, her laughter echoing as she rearranges fabric samples and sketches ideas. The woman I see there isn't the broken daughter I once pulled out of a trap. She's the builder now, the architect of her own life. And every time I see her smile, I know the house I built, the one that nearly destroyed us, finally did what it was meant to. It taught her how to rebuild. That night, sitting on my porch with the ocean wind in my hair, I thought of Anne. "You'd be proud of her," I whispered to the dark. "She's got your fire." Somewhere a wave crashed steady and sure. Maybe that was her answer. 6 months. That's how long it took for the noise to fade, for court dates to end, for the papers to stop coming in the mail, for the nightmares to thin into silence. But silence can be strange. After months of war, peace feels like a foreign language. You keep waiting for the phone to ring, for the door to slam, for the next blow that never comes. Lily was learning how to live again, and I was learning how to let her. She rented a small apartment above a bakery downtown, one of those places that always smelled like cinnamon and hope. Every Saturday, I'd bring her a box of tools and help patch whatever was broken. Light fixtures, leaky pipes, things a landlord would take months to fix. She'd make coffee, and we'd talk, while sunlight spilled through the wide city windows. She laughed again. The kind of laugh that starts low, unsteady, but grows into something full and alive. She'd started seeing a therapist, joined a community art group. She'd even adopted a dog, a scrawny golden retriever named Murphy, who followed her everywhere, like he'd been waiting his whole life to belong to her. Sometimes when she didn't think I was looking, I saw her whisper things to that dog, like she was telling him all the words she'd never been allowed to say. As for me, I went back to building things. Not houses, those take too much out of a man my age, but smaller things. Coffee tables, birdhouses, a rocking chair for a neighbor's new grandkid. I started teaching woodworking again at the community center. Funny thing about sawdust, it smells like healing if you give it enough time. One afternoon while I was sweeping the shop, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but some instincts never die. "Mr. Harris." A woman's voice, steady, practiced. "Yes. Who's this?" "My name's Rachel Connors. I was married to Ethan Ward before your daughter was." I stopped sweeping. The silence between us felt heavy. "I know who you are," I said softly. "Richard mentioned you came forward during the case." She exhaled. "I just wanted to say thank you for not letting him get away with it again." "You don't owe me thanks," I said. "You owed yourself peace." She was quiet for a moment, then said, "Lily saved more than herself. You saved all of us who never got the chance." When I hung up, I sat down on the workbench and stared at my hands. The same hands that had once built the house Ethan tried to steal. And for the first time, I didn't see failure in them. I saw proof that sometimes the hardest things we build aren't made of wood or nails, they're made of resolve. That evening, Lily came by the house for dinner. She looked lighter, not just in her face, but in the way she moved. like the gravity that had pinned her down was finally gone. I made her favorite stew, the one her mother used to make when the world felt too heavy. We ate on the porch as the ski turned gold. "Dad," she said suddenly, "do you ever regret building that house?" I thought for a long moment before answering. "No," I said finally, "because it gave you a way out. Sometimes even the things that hurt us are the things that save us." She nodded. "I've been thinking about that too, about starting something that helps women who went through what I did. A nonprofit. Maybe call it Hearth Foundation. You know, a place to rebuild from." I smiled. "That's perfect." She looked down at her hands, strong now, calloused from work. "I want to make sure no one ever feels as small as I did back then. No one should have to beg for the right to breathe." Her words broke me a little in the best way. It wasn't revenge she wanted. It was redemption for herself and for others. Later that night, after she left, I went through an old box of Anne's things. Inside was a photo of the three of us on the porch of the house, still half built. Anne's hair was wild from the wind. Lily was maybe 8, holding a hammer twice her size. On the back, Anne had written in blue ink, "We build to protect, not to possess." I stared at that line for a long time. She'd always known what I was too stubborn to see. Possession was what ruined Ethan, the need to own, to control, to cage what he feared would leave him. Love, real love, was the opposite. Love was freedom. A few weeks later, I got a call from Richard. The prosecutor's office closed the restitution case, he said. Funds recovered from Ethan's accounts are being distributed. Lily will get her share next month. How much, I asked. Enough to start over. Maybe enough to build again if she wants to. I thanked him, and before hanging up he said, "You know, Mike, not many people your age would have fought that hard. Most would have walked away. Walking away is easy when you've got nothing left to lose," I said. "But when it's your kid, you fight until you're out of breath, and then you fight some more." He chuckled. "You ever think of writing that down?" "Maybe someday," I said. "But for now, I'll keep building." The following weekend, Lily invited me to the grand opening of her design studio, Second Light. The sign out front was simple, elegant, painted in her favorite deep blue. Inside, sunlight poured across clean white walls and framed sketches. She'd hung a single photo behind the front counter, her mother smiling in front of the old house. When she saw me looking at it, she said, "That's my reminder. To build better." There were people everywhere, clients, friends, neighbors. The kind of crowd that believes in second chances. I stood back, watching her talk to them, confident and sure. A man near me said, "You must be her father. She talks about you like you're a legend." I laughed. "A tired one, maybe." He smiled. "She's got your eyes. The kind that look like they've seen too much and decided to keep going anyway." I didn't answer. I just looked at my daughter, alive, free, whole, and thought, that's enough legend for me. That night back home, I poured a glass of bourbon and stepped out to the porch. The air smelled like wet earth and pine. The same old wind that used to whip the siding of that cursed house now felt like a blessing. I looked up at the stars and said quietly, "She's safe, Annie. You can rest now." And maybe I could too. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was waiting for something to fall apart. The storm had passed, and what was left, this quiet, steady peace, was worth every bruise, every fight, every scar. Because in the end, I hadn't just saved my daughter's house. I'd helped her build her freedom. A year to the day since the court declared Ethan guilty, the morning sun rose different, gentler, somehow warmer on my old bones. Maybe it was just peace I was feeling. Or maybe it was Anne watching over us again, whispering that we'd finally done right by our girl. Lily came over early, as she always did on Fridays. She brought croissants from the bakery downstairs, Murphy trotting at her heel tail wagging like he knew the smell of redemption. We sat on the porch, coffee steaming between us, the ocean wind threading through the cedar trees. She looked lighter. Even her laughter sounded new, stronger. "Dad," she said, smiling at something distant. "You know what day it is?" "Friday," I said, pretending not to remember. She grinned. "It's the anniversary. 1 year since you stopped Ethan at the title company." I let that sink in. A whole year. It felt both longer and shorter, like time had folded around that day, sealing off the pain but leaving the lesson. "You sure you want to celebrate that?" I asked. "I'm not celebrating what happened," she said. "I'm celebrating what came after." We drove down to the coast that afternoon, to the place where the old Cedar Lane house once stood. The new owners had renovated it completely. Fresh paint, new porch, different windows. It didn't look like our house anymore, and that was okay. Lily parked the car, stepped out, and stood there in silence, her hair blowing in the salt wind. "It's strange," she said finally. "I thought I'd hate seeing it again. But I don't. It's just a building now. It doesn't own me anymore." "You took back more than the deed," I said quietly. "You took back your name." She smiled at me, eyes shining. "And you took back your peace." Maybe I did. That evening, we went to dinner at a small seaside cafe. Halfway through our meal, Lily's phone buzzed. She checked the screen and frowned slightly. "Who is it?" I asked. She hesitated. "Rachel. Rachel Connors, Ethan's first wife." "Go ahead," I said. She answered and put the call on speaker. Lily, Rachel's voice came through, calm but purposeful. "I wanted to tell you something. Ethan's appeal was denied this morning. He's serving the full sentence. No parole." Lily exhaled, not with joy, but with relief. "Thank you, Rachel." "He'll be where he belongs," Rachel said. "But more importantly, I wanted you to know there's a support fund starting for women like us. The DA's office is helping. They want to name it after your design studio, Second Light." Lily's eyes widened. "You're kidding." "I'm not," Rachel said. "It's fitting, don't you think? You found light again. Now it can help others find theirs." Lily smiled through tears. "That's the sweetest thing anyone's ever said to me." Rachel chuckled softly. "It's not sweetness, honey. It's justice." The line went quiet after that. But the silence was golden. A week later, the Second Light Foundation launched officially a program for women, escaping abusive relationships, offering emergency housing and financial counseling. Lily's studio donated part of its profits. Richard volunteered his legal expertise. Karen helped with the fundraising. And me, I built the first furniture set for the shelter's common room. A dining table from reclaimed wood, the grain marked with old nail scars, proof that broken things can be made beautiful again. When Lily saw it, she ran her hand along the polished surface. "It's perfect," she whispered. "It's strong," I said, "like the people who'll sit around it." That night, there was a small gathering at the foundation. Former victims, volunteers, donors, people who had seen darkness and chosen to be the light for others. Lily stood up to speak. I stayed in the back near the door. I've never been much for crowds. She looked around the room and said, "A year ago I thought my life was over. I thought I'd lost everything that mattered. But my father taught me something, that sometimes the things that break us aren't the end. They are the beginning. Because spine can either bury you or build you. And when you have someone who refuses to give up on you, you start to remember who you are." She looked at me then. Everyone else followed her gaze. I didn't cry, not really. But I felt something crack open inside, the way wood splits under pressure, revealing its clean, strong heart. After the event, she came to me and hugged me tight. "You know," she said, "you never told me why you really built that house by the coast. Mom was gone, and I thought maybe it was just to stay busy. I smiled a little embarrassed. It was more than that. I built it because I needed to prove I could still make something that lasted. But turns out, what lasted wasn't the house. It was us. She laughed softly. You always find a way to make it sound simple. It is simple, I said. You build, you protect. And when life knocks it down, you build again. That's all there is. The night ended quietly. She drove home, Murphy's head sticking out the car window. I sat on the porch with a glass of bourbon, watching the horizon melt into orange and violet. There was peace again, the kind that comes not from forgetting, but from knowing you faced the worst and survived with your soul intact. And in that silence, I thought about what justice really means. It's not about revenge or punishment. It's about restoration. It's about a daughter who learned her worth, a father who learned when to fight and when to let go, a community that learned to protect its own. It's the sweet kind, the kind that heals instead of hurts. Before going inside, I looked up at the sky, wide, clear, endless, and whispered, "Thank you, Anne, for her courage, for her light." The wind rustled the trees, and I could have sworn it sounded like her laughter. Maybe that's how peace speaks softly through the things we once thought we'd lost. And as I turned off the porch light, I realized something simple, something final. The real inheritance isn't a house or money or even justice. It's dignity. And that once built can never be stolen. You know, people ask me if I regret giving my daughter that house, the one that started it all. Truth is, I don't regret a damn thing. Because that house didn't destroy us. It revealed us. It showed me what kind of man I still was, and what kind of woman my daughter was meant to become. Justice didn't come from the courts. It came from standing up, from refusing to let fear win. And if you take anything from my story, let it be this. Don't let anyone convince you that age makes you powerless. Experience is power, and love, real love, fights back. If you've ever had to rebuild your life from ashes, tell me in the comments. What was the moment you realized you were done being afraid?